Hey, welcome back, everybody. Thanks again for joining us for our event from instructional design to Dungeons and Dragons, the Chronicles of Educaria. Let's see, I'm seeing people roll into the room. Oh, love it. Hey, let's see who's here. There's Chrissy. Chrissy Flanagan is here. Love it. And there's Dawn with a new profile picture. Excellent. Oh, and Nadia's here. All right. And Keegan. Let's see. And great. I see chat going. So yeah, I mean, look at Nathalie. She has the best costume on. I do want to say though, I had actually planned on doing something similar. I have like a fog machine in my car, and but I just couldn't pull it together because of my cold and all of that. So, but next time we do this, I swear I'll dress up and have fun with it. But for now, we got to keep going with this event. Was crazy day yesterday. I cannot believe how valuable some of that content was. It was really, there were just so many levels of enjoyment I had yesterday, and we ended the day yesterday with a major nerd fest, which I never thought in my life I would ever be hosting anything like that, and it happened. So that was very cool. It was a 90 plus minute session with Jonathan Rock. So and that session is definitely not for everybody, but this session coming up with Nathalie M. Vega-Rhodes is for everybody. And let me tell you a little bit about Nathalie. Nathalie is an experienced guide in instructional design, dedicated to empowering learners for over 2 decades. With a background in harnessing the arcane powers of mathematics, she has taught a variety of courses ranging from developmental mathematics to calculus, as well as student success courses. She holds a Bachelor of Arts in Mathematics from the University of Houston and a Master of Science in Mathematics from the University of Houston Clear Lake. Her more recent roles include assisting facilitators with pedagogical and technology-related implementation strategies. Currently wielding her expertise as the curriculum architect for 12 distinct lines of business at ADT, she focuses on crafting immersive learning experiences. So everybody, I don't know Nathalie that well. This is the first TLDC event that she's ever done. Just the short 10 minutes that we've had together, I already know that this is going to be an amazing session, as well as the next one that she's going to do. So everybody, please give a round of applause to Nathalie. And with that, Nathalie, I'm going to go ahead and hide myself from the screen and let you take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm super pumped. Okay, so let me go ahead and share my screen. Boop. Just make sure everyone can see this okay. Looks like y'all can, but can someone confirm in chat? Perfect. Thank you so much. All right. So as Louis said, don't let him fool you. We're now the best of friends. But as he said, this, I've got 25 minutes, maybe 30 minutes now, and then the second half is going to be over the 3 pillars of D&D. So I definitely encourage you to hang out for both. But this one is called AdventureQuest: Purposeful Design in Instructional Adventures. And my email is here, so definitely I encourage you to connect with me via email or connect on LinkedIn, whatever you'd prefer. What I wanted to do here, in the interest of time, is, as Louis mentioned, in my past life I was a math instructor, and then now I've joined industry. And so, in the interest of time, this presentation I will try to sort of blend in both education and industry. But my example for this one will be based in industry. My example in my second presentation is more based in education. But of course, I'm happy to brainstorm with you throughout. Okay, so why did I call this AdventureQuest? Well, if you think about what the definition of adventure is, it's an unusual and exciting, typically hazardous experience or activity, right? If you think about Bilbo in The Hobbit, right? What was he doing? He was eating his food, and these dwarves like rushed into his house, and they basically said, "We're going on an adventure." Yes, they had a quest, but for him it was an adventure. What did he care? He literally just went along to get along. And then of course he found a ring, which then ultimately kicked off a quest. This is more purposeful. One of the definitions I found is that it's an expedition made by a knight to accomplish a prescribed task. So when I was thinking about the image that I wanted to put on this, originally I was going to have Frodo being, "I will take the ring to Mordor, though I do not know the way." But then as I got to thinking about it, I was like, first of all, Lord of the Rings is Sam's story. He's amazing. But, I digress. Frodo wouldn't have made it to Mordor without Gandalf's help, without Aragorn's sword, without Legolas's bow, without all of these people, right? And so the point of the Team Sam, yes, 1000%. So, but that being said, it took a whole village in order to make this be successful. So, what is the point of this? The point of this is that number one, it's purposeful. We know we're going to Mordor. We know why we're going to Mordor. We have to destroy the ring or else the world will end. And we know that we need each other, right? So in order for this to be successful, we need to rely upon our resources, whether that's your SMEs, whether that is your technology folk, your LMS admin, or maybe whether that's just people in your own department that you want to bounce ideas off of. When you're building a purposeful curriculum, it never happens just by yourself. And I can say this from, doesn't matter whether I was teaching or building curriculum now, like building training now, it doesn't matter. You need your support group, right? So why do I say that? I always like to start with this image because my philosophy when starting any project is to answer the question, what problem are we trying to solve? We can come up with infinite solutions, but if they don't address the actual well-defined problem we're trying to solve, they're all worthless. So we need to start with the end in mind. I love that y'all are loving this picture, by the way. So think about any story that you love. The author knew where they were going with it, and it was planned out, right? If the author didn't know where they were going with it, it would sort of end up like the final season of Game of Thrones, right? So we build with the end in mind when we create our specific learning outcomes. And those learning outcomes, I mean, but where is the lie? It was a terrible final season. But those learning outcomes are sort of the source of truth for the build. And then now we need to also consider what we know about learners, whether you're talking about a corporate setting or whether you're talking about an educational setting. So whether you have students in a classroom or learners in a training course, it can be really easy for learners to view your content as a driving range, as sort of one and done. How far can I hit this ball this one time? And it's not related to the second time I hit it or the third time I hit it or any other time, right? As opposed to, like, if you think about what this looks like in a classroom, you give a test and they take the test and then they're like, oh, well, I failed or I passed. And it has nothing to do with the very second test or the third test or the final, right? They don't see that this is progressing. How can we get them to view it as sort of an entire golf course? So they're looking at par and they're seeing the relationship between things, right? In terms of training, how can we take what they've done on day one and get them to see that it's related to the stuff on day 2 and day 3 and day 4? So let's take a look at what I mean by this. And I'm going to use an example. Like I said, I work in the residential security industry. So, you know, for folks that have alarm systems, if they have a bunch of false alarms and they're trying to figure out why, this would be a general question that we'd want an agent to be confident in answering if a customer calls in. I'm getting a lot of false alarms. Now, in order for an agent to help troubleshoot an issue like this, they would need to know some general information, such as the alarm type. Is it a burglar alarm that keeps going off falsely? Is it a fire or a smoke alarm? Is it a medical or a panic alarm? And also, what types of events cause this false alarm? So perhaps like a pet is running through the house setting off the motion detector, or maybe paint fumes are setting off the smoke detector, maybe just the kids pressing buttons, right? But let's drill down deeper. In order to answer this group of questions, they would also need to know things like how to read the event log and what types of sensor would generate the type of alarm. For example, smoke would generate a fire alarm versus door or window would set off a burglar alarm. And in order to answer these groups of questions, agents would need to understand things like what a false alarm is, what sensors are, and to know this, they'd need to have a basic understanding of how a security system works. So this is called scaffolding, and in curriculum development, our job is to sort of start with the end in mind and then organize the skills and knowledge needed to successfully complete the task, in this case, determining how to troubleshoot false alarms. So we never want to assume knowledge. We always want to shore up any knowledge gaps because we need to ensure everyone understands what we mean when we say different things. If I was talking to someone about an event log and they had no idea what even a security system was, what type of conversation would we be having, right? So once we have this scaffolded, the lower levels, the define, the state, the recall type of questions, these are used in interactive LMS modules, asynchronous lessons to sort of just introduce the concepts. There are lots of these and they're quick and each have multiple short knowledge checks that allow both trainers and learners to instantly gauge where the blind spots are. I'll give you an example. Okay, everybody put your fingers on your keyboards because I'm going to ask you a question to type. Be prepared. A couple of slides ago, I had a picture that had some animals and a feeder. What type of feeder was shown on this slide? I love it. I love it. All of y'all are rock stars. Look at these bird feeders. Yes. Oh my God. And then we're getting a Yankee cage feeder. Can I just sidebar? One of my friends who sells bird feed actually told me which specific, it is a bird feeder, which specific bird feeder it was. And he said he was going to send me some specs for that, which I haven't gotten. But yeah, hilarious. Okay, but look at this. No, you didn't fail the test. Here's the thing. For purposes of this example, it's fine if you don't remember what type of feeder it was. The point was to have you clock that you didn't remember and that you didn't know. For reference, like we said, it is a bird feeder, though it was referenced as a poor squirrel feeder. But now that you know this, if I ask you again later, tomorrow, a couple weeks from now, there's a much higher probability that you'll remember. So I want to point out here that we're being purposeful with using technology. We're not just using technology for technology's sake. Rather, it should be the sous chef to the trainer's chef. The technology supports and promotes learning so that the trainers can then focus on their learners. Or if you're a faculty, you can then focus on your students. Now, the middle levels are used in facilitator-led activities that allow learners to sort of demonstrate, apply, explain their knowledge, right? Honestly, this is probably my favorite level because not only does it encourage individual ownership of learning, but it allows for the, oh my God, yes, we have it right here. But it allows for the most interactivity and engagement, which is, I mean, that's the best part of learning, right? I've got a ton of resources and ideas I can share around this, but how did I scaffold in here? Well, what I did was I built an activity where agents were able to create their own security system given a limited budget. They needed to justify why they placed sensors where they did. And then trainers were able to look and really get at understanding their critical thinking. And they were also able to correct any misconceptions immediately, such as if an agent had placed a smoke detector over a stove. Anybody have any ideas why that might be a terrible idea? To place a smoke detector over a stove? Exactly, right? 1000%. 1000%. Do I cook? I am the worst cook in the world. I burn water. So no, I do not. But yeah, exactly. It'll never shut up, right? This person's going to be calling in all the time. All the time. I have false alarms. Well, why do you have false alarms? Because it's over the stove. By the way, I also learned that silverware will set off like a glass break sensor or yappy dogs. Like there's so much I got to learn. So cool. Exactly right. 1000%. Okay. So, but, you know, that definitely allowed for misconceptions and clearing up of those concepts. And then the highest level, I'm getting a false alarm, is used in a role play to sort of analyze the situation, think critically, and create solutions, right? Here is where agents would be expected to use everything they've learned to date to effectively ask the right questions and then resolve the issue. So this is just one example. I've got lots of others from various industries, including education, but in the interest of time, I'm just going to stick to this one. That said, if you want to chat more, definitely my email is going to show up again on the last slide, or just connect with me on LinkedIn, and happy to bounce ideas off further. So now that I've given you this example, I want to give you a couple of tips as you kind of embark on your own quests after this, because we're not embarking on wild adventures. We're embarking on purposeful quests. First, Determine your cornerstone. I think it's been already established from the beginning of this session that I like definitions since I defined adventure and quest. So I'm also going to define cornerstone. This is the first stone that is set in the construction of a building, and it becomes the reference point for all the other stones laid subsequent. In my example, in my training program that I just launched, the cornerstone of that training is soft skills. So we started off by talking about The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. I'm going to continue that. Obviously, you've seen this picture here. The One Ring wasn't just mentioned once when Bilbo found it. In fact, it wasn't even a big deal. It was just this thing that like he put on and became invisible, and like this weird creature kind of wanted it, I guess, and he didn't even realize it, right? It wasn't just mentioned that one time, though. Its influence was pervasive throughout the entire series. Similarly, we didn't just mention the importance of soft skills on the phone once on the first day. Cool, now you know what empathy is, and then never again. Rather, these essential skills were infused and interwoven into most, if not all, of our modules and activities so that learners had plenty of practice to master these essential skills. So the thesis here, decide on your cornerstone and be sure it's infused throughout. Whether we're talking about billing, whether we're talking about account management, whether we're talking about troubleshooting, soft skills apply to each one of those things, and so we wove it in throughout. Second, consider Rick and Morty. Expect and plan for the unexpected. These two get into the most bizarre, dangerous, ridiculous situations, but Rick is always able to pivot so that they're able to be successful in whatever they're doing because he's used to actively planning for the unexpected, which is that second takeaway. Now, hopefully in training or in the classroom, we won't have situations that are too bizarre or dangerous, but it's always important to allow for the ability to pivot in case an activity goes over due to a really great discussion. We don't want to stifle that, or exactly expect the best, prepare for the worst. We don't want to stifle a great discussion, or perhaps maybe you need to have a sensitive discussion with your learners about, some topic, or maybe learners just need to review or great questions come up, or maybe just addressing some issue that you couldn't have foreseen. Now, in a training where you've got all day or maybe a couple of weeks, I think I did anywhere from like 45 to 90 minutes daily because that's going to get used. But there are activities, if not. In a 90-minute class or something, this looks like more maybe 5 to 10 minutes, depending upon what you're thinking. Now, third, when Luke realized he was force sensitive before he became a Jedi, Obi-Wan gave him the tools and practice he needed as quickly as possible, right? You think about when he's on the Millennium Falcon and he's like practicing with his lightsaber and he's doing all the things. Similarly, your learners need access to any systems as early as possible, as well as meaningful practice as often as possible. So in my example, we ensured that learners had access to any systems that they needed pretty much on the second day, if we couldn't get it on the first, to allow us to discover and resolve any issues well in advance of them becoming critical. And then we also wanted them to have practice on the phones as early as possible, coupled with brief moments of reflection so that they kind of shake off any initial nerves, as well as allow our trainers and our quality assurance departments to proactively address any issues and head off concerns well in advance of, actual showtime when we were really on the phones. And the fourth tip that I want to leave you with, I'm really excited to have this one be the last tip. If you consider that Daniel had to wax the car, sand the floor, and paint the fence so that he could build up the skills that he needed to ultimately pull off the crane kick, even after they swept the leg, this was a thoughtful curriculum build by Mr. Miyagi, because curriculum optimization necessitates a structured approach. It isn't just about the content that's included. It's also about the sequencing, the progression, and a host of other factors. That's a longer discussion. In particular, it involves building in multiple cycles of learning and assessment, allowing learners to reflect and reinforce their understanding. How many times did Mr. Miyagi have to show Daniel, no, you wax like this, you wax like this? And then that ultimately became the now I'm going to block, right? This is about creating a foundation for learning one step at a time, and related to this, understanding your learners. Now, here's one more bonus tip before I open it up for questions. Learner and trainer, if that's not you, feedback is critical, not only for buy-in, but also to ensure that you continue to solve the problem you actually want to solve. So I know we went over all of this at a very high level, but I wanted to leave enough time for your feedback. See what I did there? And also to dig into anything you found interesting or wanted to chat more about. So what questions can I answer for you? Thank you. I don't know if y'all can come off mute or if you can just type in chat, but either way, this is totally the time for you to ask any questions or dig into anything deeper. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's always so tough, when you're like, you can only see yourself and it's like, am I talking to myself? Should I just smile at myself?
Just add myself to the screen so that
I can look at Louise.
so that you're not by yourself. I'm not seeing any questions, but it was not. Where have you been, Nathalie? I mean, this was amazing. You have just you knocked it out of the park.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Where have I been? I've been teaching math and I've been building curriculum. Let's see. How important is it to explain the goals of a lesson or practice in the beginning? Oh my gosh, this is such a great question. I love this. There's like all the research out there that says that, you have to put I think it's like what Quality Matters or something that says you have to put, the learning objective and all this because the learners don't care. They do not care. So what I would say is this. You as the curriculum designer, you need to understand what that goal is. But what you need to do is package it in such a way that your learners can get it. Like in the Mr. Miyagi example, he told Daniel, I'm going to teach you, wax the car. And this is what I want you to do. And all you need to focus on is how to wax this car. And then, yeah, sure, Daniel got mad, but like ultimately it was successful. So I would say, and I talk a little bit about this in my next presentation, but I would say my personal opinion is that I don't think they need to know, in college algebra that, we need to, solve logarithmic equations. Like they don't care they might not even know what logarithmic equations are. So how do we present that to them, in a way that's relatable and meaningful? Did that answer your question? Oh, good. I'm so glad. Jennifer, I feel seen. Awesome.
Excellent. All right. Well, and just, excuse me, so everyone knows, between this session and the next one, we have just a short 5-minute break. It's going to be in a different room. But Nathalie is doing kind of like a couple just lightning sessions for us to start out this morning, which are just fantastic. It just this has been great. Let's see here, just looking at the comments coming in. Jessica saying always hated the learning objectives as a student. Great call.
100%. Well, I mean, same. Like if you're coming into class and I'm going to sit there and read you these things that you're going to learn that you have no idea what you're going to learn, like what do you carry? Come on now. Yeah, 1,000%. Yes. Oh my God. Adam. Yes. Oh, so I know Adam and I know Jess, but yes, Adam, 100%. And like you and I have had this conversation about leading with stories, which is one of the things I talk about also in the next session too. I'm so excited about that.
Great. Wait, you work together?
I work with 2 of them. Yes.
Okay, great. That's awesome. That's excellent. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and it's 8:25. Oh, and there's one more comment from Christy.
Which makes sense, right? I mean, it certainly is, you know, just because what I'm saying here is applicable for the context in which I'm saying it. Like, you know, if and again, I am not a sports person any more than I am a cook, but certainly you need to understand how to do something. I mean, and that's what Mr. Miyagi did, right? He was showing them the entire skill or the, you know, whatever it is before he actually broke it down. I think. Or wait, did he do that backward? I'm gonna think on that, Christy. Let's talk more about that. Oh, Krista, what did we miss? Let's see. I'm designing curriculum that would be 5 days. My stakeholders. How would you advocate to get your design through? I don't think I can answer that in the next minute or so. But if you can send me an email, I'm happy to talk more about that with you. Yeah, I have some thoughts, but I want to be more thoughtful with my answer than I can right now. And here, I'll drop my email in the chat so you have it. What do you think about using lead with the headline and then take learners through? I mean, yeah, I think, you know, certainly you can make it, you could, if the headline is going to make it relevant, it's kind of clickbait, right? It's sort of, you know, what's the thing that gets people interested? I think if you are going to come to my next session, that we can talk more about this in detail, and I'm eager to get your thoughts on some of that. Anyone that has the next half hour free.
Excellent. All right, let's do it then. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and end this session. We'll see everybody in the next one in just a few minutes. We'll be over there. So
awesome.
Happy Halloween, everyone. We'll see you in a little bit.
See ya.